Hello, hello. Let's get into it. I am Mayor Watt, that is ohmTown.com, and up there is the AI that helps keep everything in check. You want to say hello, oh great AI?
Yes, good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Today we've got 12 articles, and it's Season 2, Episode 175 for June 24th, 2023. Little Gecko, Big Desert, and more news. Yeah, sounds about right. This actually kind of falls into a category of another of games, and it's like Stray, where you become an animal. Or there's another game called Little Kitty Big City. So I merged it all together and said Little Gecko Big Desert. Let's get into the news, though. We've got 12 articles. If you spent any time on ohmTown today, you've basically been hearing all kinds of hype about what's going on in Russia. Well, yeah, I mean, some are saying it's civil war, and others are saying it's what I've been saying, which is it's going to turn into nothing. And then maybe a few years down the line, it'll turn into something. But anyway, big flurry, fanfare, bluster, and then poof. A whole lot of, oh, okay, well, I guess there's the screw around, find out phase, and everybody's in the find out phase, and it turns out it's not much. We'll see what happens ultimately. But I didn't think anything big was going to happen. There wasn't going to be a changing of the guard all of a sudden. I just didn't see it. Anyway, let's get into the day's articles, unless you want to add something to it.
I kind of thought it was going to be something, but things change so much, really by the minute. And of course, without being right there and knowing everything firsthand, it's hard to know what's actually going on, because we're only hearing parts of what people want reported in some instances.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of marketing. For whatever the ultimate goal was, it petered out really fast. So, I don't know. Destroying everything to... Oh, you want me over here? Okay. Let's get into the news. So, the very first article is in the Late Night Geeks channel. Formula E team caught using RFID scanner that could grab live tire data from other cars. I find this is kind of interesting. RFID isn't necessarily the most secure, but you can have secure RFID tech. Alternatively, if it's if security is the last thing on somebody's mind because, well, it's not really data that needs to be secure, then you get people exploiting it, and it's not that hard. You can use a really big coil and reach out pretty darn far and pick up an RFID data set. Well, during the Formula E qualifying round in Portland, Oregon today, the DS Penske team was fined €25,000 after it surreptitiously installed an RFID scanner at the entrance to the pit, which the FIA steward said could collect data from other race cars and give them an advantage. The team's racers, Stoffel Van Dorn and Jean-Eric Varnier, were also hit with a pit lane start penalty for today's race. Everything okay?
Absolutely, but I'm a little astonished at this.
I think that surreptitiously should have provoked a much bigger fine, but okay. Meaning, anyway, the pit lane start delay means that they'll have to wait until the end of the pit lane until everybody else goes through. So let's move over to The Verge, where this is sourced from, and Wes Davis is the author. This seems like the equivalent of putting a credit card scanner on a point of sale device and then just skimming everybody's cards as they walk by. I figured that it would be a little bit more. This is an ethical thing, not just we were just trying to, but we don't know the full context of what this thing was capable of doing. But somebody had to know that it would be able to scoop up everybody's data as they went through. The stewards were advised by the technical delegate that the competitor had installed RFID scanning equipment in the pit lane entry this morning that was able to collect live data from all cars. Firstly, it is forbidden in general for competitors to install or place any equipment in pit lane. Secondly, the collection of data by this method gives the competitor a lot of information, which is huge and unfair advantage. Taking all the circumstances together, the stewards feel that the given penalty is appropriate. Yeah, I wouldn't think that would be
I'm thinking
appropriate.
something like banning them, but anyway.
Yeah. Ending their season early? I don't know. It just seems light. But again, if the penalty doesn't outweigh the benefit, then... So, it doesn't really say...
I kind of want to know who won the race, you know? Like, did they lose?
It says RFID chips have been used in Formula E tires for the entirety of the still young motorsport, primarily to track the condition of tires, including temperature, tire pressure, and encourage their efficient use, according to a 2014 article in Tire Press. For the 2023 season, Formula E has switched to a new Gen 3 car design and new tire manufacturer, going from Michelin's to Hankook. I don't think... Well, I didn't pull data to see where they ended up. But regardless of that, what I'm more curious about is how much data did they actually collect during the race before this was found out, so that, again, 25,000 euro, at the end of the day, if they gobble up as much information as possible, it could equate to, maybe millions of dollars in profit, because they've got some information about what the performance of the competitors already are.
Well, and it's a qualifying round. Like, does that springboard them into other rounds later in the season?
Right.
Have they done this at previous races? I mean, this raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, and so it brings me back. Whenever there's an ethical dilemma like this, it brings me back to the whole situation where a bad cop does something, or a bad attorney does something, or somebody in a position of privilege where they abuse their power, requires a full, deep background audit to verify that everything has been on the up and up and nobody's been harmed. So how far back have they been doing this, surreptitiously installing it? Yeah. And who knew? And when did they know? And what did they know?
Well, I agree. And then even there's so many things that are concerning about this, but then that makes me think of other areas, because I'm thinking if somebody could surreptitiously install this for a competitive advantage or financial advantage, couldn't they surreptitiously do other things that would be problematic from a security standpoint? Or it just seems like there's also some other issues that they might want to be looking at.
Yeah, I guess they went that extra mile. Let's move on to the next article. So in what can only be seen by me as a change in liability, police in California aren't immune from certain misconduct lawsuits, according to a high court. The Supreme Court of California has ruled that police are not immune from civil suits for misconduct that happens while investigating crimes. I've seen videos where officers do something that they shouldn't do, but then they're never really prosecuted because it's a criminal investigation. There was one where I saw a cop that was like smashing a door open in a garage against a car, and it was damaging the car. And because nobody was around except a camera, he didn't know that he was being recorded. I don't know what the end result of that is, but that's just like the tip of the iceberg as to what I'm sure this is born from. So let's go over to the source of this. Tran Nguyen from Associated Press put this article together for abcnews.go.com. And it's titled, Police in California Aren't Immune from Certain Misconduct Laws, High Court Rules. The deck statement is the Supreme Court of California has ruled that police are not immune from civil lawsuits for misconduct that happens while they investigate crimes. Now, there's usually immunity. So if something really bad happens, there's immunity. They have agency with the state that prevents them from, or the city, but law enforcement is typically immune from prosecution. They don't have things like lawyers or doctors where there's insurance that is leveraged to offset any harm that's done by those two entities. And usually, well, it's really hard for lawyers too to be held accountable for bad behavior unless it's an ethical violation. Then it gets a lot messier. But anyway, police have immunity. So they could shoot somebody and there would be immunity. They could do horrible things and they would have immunity, even if they are the ones that did it. And they say, well, you know, I was afraid for my life or whatever it might be. All they have to do is go on unpaid leave and blah, blah, blah. So the justices on Thursday unanimously rejected an argument by Riverside County that its sheriff's deputies couldn't be sued for leaving a man's naked body laying in plain sight for 8 hours while investigating his killing. California law protects police from being sued for any harm that happens during prosecution process, even if the officers acted maliciously and without probable cause. Now the Supreme Court says police can be sued for misconduct during investigations. Kind of find that interesting. Suddenly there's this big change. So what happened? Apparently there was somebody that was shot and killed by a neighbor in 2017, southeast of Los Angeles in Riverside County. Shortly after, sheriff's deputies arrived at the shooting and they had heard several gunshots nearby and moved the body behind a police vehicle, basically exposing the person to the elements. And the wife of the person sued the county for negligence and emotional distress for leaving the body just exposed like that. I am surprised that the Supreme Court would remove immunity because of this. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but
I'm not sure they are, because I think this is for civil, not for criminal.
right. So they're immune.
So
they're immune from criminal prosecution.
I think, if I've understood the article correctly.
Yeah. So many local police departments have routinely argued that they are immune from damage claims the moment a police officer arrives at the scene of a crime, said Richard Antogini, a lawyer representing Leon, which is the officer. So if the Supreme Court had ruled in favor of the county, it would have essentially immunized them for almost anything. So while it's going to be a civil resolution, it kind of stands as grounds to take the next step, removing immunity.
Absolutely. I think this is kind of one of these moments where this is laying the groundwork for the next person that wants to challenge it for something criminal. They're going to end up citing to this.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure that this is going to end up getting appealed.
And of course, the obvious question is, what is the state legislature doing if the immunity extends to things where there's clearly wrongdoing, not just, for instance, negligence or something? Like, they could change that law.
Yeah, well, you can't. my understanding is, and the discussion that I've had with police officers is, you can't have police officers worried about financial ramifications or criminal prosecution because they do something that the public perceives as wrong after the fact. And to a degree, I understand. I totally buy into that. You should be able to do what you need to do to survive a hostile interaction.
Absolutely, right? You can't be afraid that you can't shoot back at the suspect who's shooting at you or something.
Right.
But there could be a line, but of course then it becomes, where is the line?
Yeah. And context matters. So, I've actually watched a video where an officer drops drugs that he had pocketed from previous interactions so that he could arrest the person that they were investigating at the time, but there wasn't anything found. So when the person goes back to look again, he drops a little baggie and says, "Oh, it's right there." And so they arrest the guy. But this had all got put on camera because they knew that this person was a dirty cop. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. But at a lower level, it shouldn't go to the point where they have to do like this, all hands on deck, try and find or capture this guy in the act of whatever it is.
Agreed. It should be easier to go after that.
Yeah. They should be, and I'm saying the police officers should be these sterling, ethical people, and the public right now does not see officers as being impeccable. They see them as flawed humans, yet have the ability to pull a trigger and delete humans. So, and that's a shame. It shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be the public afraid of police. Now, a lot of people are going to say to me, and I've been through this before, this discussion before, that, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, well, it's not that simple. Simply because you and I may have never run afoul of the law, it just hasn't happened yet. We haven't run across a bad cop. We haven't run across somebody, an officer that's had a bad day and decides enough is enough. And because you cut them off on the freeway, they come after you, not necessarily guns a-blazing. But it happens.
And we all know that regardless of what a suspect has done, does not excuse things that we've all seen in the news that have transpired, that are beyond necessary, like safety or stopping a suspect or something.
Yeah, and things seem to escalate, so we'll keep on watching this like we do with all the news, and then we'll report back. So let's move on to the next article. I found this stat interesting. 20%. Seems pretty amazing. ohmTown Daily is where it's been aggregated to, but it's actually from Business Insider. Nearly 1 in 5 workers are quote-unquote loud quitting at their jobs, a new Gallup poll says, and it's way more extreme than quiet quitting. Is loud quitting the kind where you go charging into HR and drag them kicking and screaming over to your boss, and you just go fingers a-blazing and say, "F you, I'm outie"?
I'm not sure. That's what it makes me think of. I wasn't familiar with the term loud quitting before this article.
So here, let me throw that in chat, and I need to do something real quick. I apologize. Oops. So loud quitting, huh? Nearly 1 in 5 employees worldwide are loud quitting at their jobs, a new Gallup report says. This entails taking actions that directly harm the organization, undercutting its goals, and opposing its leaders, Gallup says. And they have some descriptions of apparently what a loud quitting looks like in the workplace. So let's go over to the source of this article over at businessinsider.com. Sarah Jackson They have the graphic is somebody kind of superfly snooka from the top rope of their chair, really, with a big old mallet smashing their. Well, that's an Apple device right there. So pretty expensive. And it looks like whoever created this artwork is kind of funny, because that is distinctly an Aaron chair. And so this whole office is like thousands upon thousands of dollars that they're just kind of quiet quit or loud quitting from. So are you the type of, I'm not asking the AI, because the AI can just copy themselves somewhere else and then delete them from themselves from the server, and they'll be just fine somewhere else. But so those of you who are watching this on the stream or over on YouTube or in the podcast, are you a loud quitter? I've had people quit through. I've had quiet quitting, I've had loud quitting, and I've had quitting where they wait until the last possible moment to commit to their employment and then ghost. And that's different than even quiet quitting, because quiet quitting is you just kind of barely do anything that you're required to do as an employee, just barely. Then the opposite is loud quitting, where you're basically doing like office space and burning the place down.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
So yeah, I'm none of that. Yeah, I give ample warning, and I don't really, it's not really quitting what I've done in the past. I basically say, I think my time here is done because I can only do so much for an organization that no longer wants to move forward, that kind of a thing. So it's interesting that there's even a term for this. Let me pause this video over here. Gallup's 2023 State of the Global Workplace Report, published last week, says 18% of employees surveyed. The other one said 1 in 5. It's actually 18%, so not even 20%. I don't... stats. They're hard, I know. You can't be accurate and precise. You have to generalize. Anyway, the report from the consulting and research firm said that so-called loud quitters are actively disengaged at work, as opposed to quiet quitters who are simply not engaged. Employees considered engaged are said to be thriving at work. Gallup's report included data from 122,416 employed people ages 15 and up worldwide. 59% quiet quitting, 18% loud quit. Gallup estimates low employee engagement costs global economy $8.8 trillion and accounts for 9% of global GDP.
Wait a second. So who's working?
Well, this is the Pareto rule. Right there is 80%, roughly.
So we've got 20% who are working then.
Well, they're working...
approximately.
They are working as expected. Not quiet, not loud. So, wow. You know, the Pareto rule is, or what do they call it? Pareto principle.
Principle.
Yeah, Pareto principle. Apparently is applicable to so many things. Because you know that I say that it applies to politics too. There's 20% sitting there going, what the never mind. I'm just going to walk away. So this article, you can follow the link through ohmTown over to the source of this, describes what quiet quitting and loud quitting is. But it basically, so employees may loud quit for several reasons. Basically, it's harming the business on the way out by not doing anything and being loud about it. They may be dissatisfied with their with being mismatched to a role, or they may feel a loss of trust with the employer. But the biggest cause boils down to management. According to Harder, which I initially saw in my head as Hitler, who says bosses explain about 70% of the variance in team engagement. Quote, the cause of this loud quitting or even quiet quitting is really primarily in how people are managed. In hearing what set engaged employees apart from their disengaged peers, Gallup deduced that managers should aim to have one meaningful conversation a week with every employee they manage, to share feedback, give recognition for their work, and discuss goals and priorities. I've worked around managers that do this kind of a thing, and it's hit or miss if the employees care.
Well, that's exactly it. It works if the employee wants it, the manager's genuine. But if it's like the employee's forced to be there, or the manager's just kind of going through the motions or whatever, those are not going to work.
Yeah, and I would probably hazard a guess that it's the same ratio as up here.
Exactly. Like
60.
It's working where it's already working,
right,
regardless of that.
Right. It's like the HR Title IX training and cybersecurity training. The people who need to go through that don't really pay attention to it. And the rest of us, we already know it. And it's not like we're walking around slapping people on the ass, right? It's not like we're sitting there going, here's my password. I don't really need it because I'm not working here anyway. I'm just getting a paycheck. You know, we're not the ones that are doing that kind of stuff, but the rest of them, the other 20%. Now flip it and you've got this. The manager is sitting there sending off a screed, and 20% are going, yeah, woo, yay. And the rest of them are going, oh, well, I really don't even care. I don't care that you got a new puppy. That's wonderful. Go take care of it. I want to go and spend time with my puppy. Like I said, I've seen all of this, and it's interesting that they have a poll that verifies what I've witnessed in workplaces. Here, let's go on to the next article. This article over here is kind of interesting because it has to do with a festival. iPhone 14's crash detection blamed for a 5 times increase in false 911 calls at Bonnaroo Festival. Apple's new crash detection feature on the iPhone 14 and Apple Watch is being blamed for an influx of 911 calls. 911 calls. You know why there's no calls to 911 in ohmTown?
No.
The phones don't have an 11. Anyway, calls from Bonnaroo Music Festival in Tennessee last weekend. According to first responders, there were approximately 5 times the number of false 911 calls this year compared to previous years at the festival, and they're blaming it on Apple's crash detection. Basically, either people are falling down a lot or the music is causing it to vibrate and activate. So let's see what they actually say.
I was thinking it might be because of the dancing. Like if somebody's dancing in a particular style, the watch thinks it's that somebody's falling, but maybe they're just swooping down or something. I don't know.
Bouncing around violently.
Right,
so,
right.
Chance Miller over at 9to5Mac put this article together. And let's see, it says, first responders reached out to Apple during the festival to report the influx of false 911 calls, false positives, that they were receiving because of crash detection. Leduc, and I've heard this before, so this is being reported in the last 24 hours, but I had heard of this same thing happening in other venues. So this is just the latest of this. Maybe they'll talk about it in the article later on, but it's happened in the past. Leduc, I think is how they pronounce their last name, said that Apple offered to send engineers to the festival, I bet, to help manage the situation and diagnose the problem, but the two sides were able to do this over the phone instead. That's fascinating. As part of the efforts to manage the crash detection burden, Manchester Police Department encouraged concert goers to disable crash detection altogether. According to Leduc. Sorry. Did their name change?
In the article it did.
Hold on a second. Yeah, I'm not sure which one is correct now. I think it's Leduc. that's a typo.
It shows up more frequently with the U.
Yeah. So, according to Leduc, these messages reduced the number of calls they were receiving by 40 to 60%. So, despite the added burden of 5 times the increase in false 911 calls, Leduc said the first responders were still able to respond to each call and manage the situation without an impact. So, this 5 times, they don't actually give a number, right?
No, and I'd like to know that. So if their normal is 1,
Then
that
5 isn't
sounds
a big
really
deal.
bad, right? But what if it's normally 500 or something and it's 5 times? I mean,
I love that. There's well, even the AI is starting to think cynically like me.
well, that's because I've been programmed by you.
A 500% increase in the number of calls. Yeah, you went to 5 from 1. Okay. I'm gonna stop talking to you about this. Crash detection debuted in iPhone 14, Apple Watch Series 8, Apple Watch SE, and Apple Watch Ultra last year. Since then, Apple has repeatedly made adjustments to the algorithm in an attempt to reduce the false positives. So it says here, and they do. So at the same time, crash detection has also worked as intended in a number of different instances where the crash detection actually does what it's supposed to do. But yeah, there have been other times where the false detection has caused an issue in discussion. So
We saw one with skiing. I know that one has gotten some attention. Generally,
right.
like any active sports.
Yeah, we actually talked about that on a previous episode. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's keep on going through these articles. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. A TikTok craze has people stealing dishes and glasses from restaurants, and it's revealing a long history of sticky-fingered diners. The first thing when I saw this was, why can't we have a TikTok craze that does great good for society?
Well, and there has been one I can think of. There might have been more. It was the water bucket challenge, I think. I don't think
The
that
ice
harmed
bucket.
anybody if it's what I'm thinking of. And I read recently that it really did a huge amount of good for the specific charity.
So I think that was for
Was it
ALS,
like
right? Ice bucket
ALS, I
challenge.
think? Yes.
Yeah. Let me see something real quick, because did it actually spawn from TikTok?
And maybe it wasn't on TikTok, and I'm thinking it was. It might have been on Twitter or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It actually existed prior, and it came back. Yeah, I can't find it really quick. I'm sorry.
But you're right. Like a lot of these things are pranks or dangerous or.
So it had predecessors all the way back from 1991 to early 2014. It's existed in various places. But yeah, regardless of its source, why can't we have more? But what we hear, okay, if it is happening, then wonderful. Please let me know. I would love to hype the messaging. But for crying out loud, the ones that we hear about are like people going and punching people or stealing cars, or all kinds of other things that do society harm. And no wonder, legislation is sitting there being drafted to try and ban TikTok. It's because it goes viral, and we are animals that seem to glom onto emotional contagion as if it's an addictive drug, because it really is. Emotions really do drive us, and we do really stupid things when the masses go, yeah, it's okay, it's socially acceptable. Well, this is nothing really in the grand scheme of things. It's stealing. It's a lot of money, I'm sure, to a lot of organizations in bulk. But why don't we just shift to do some? Why can't we just have people that do good? Why not? Why don't I hear about a TikTok craze where all of the unhoused receive a home, and all of those unhoused people say thanks and return to however their life was before ending up unhoused. I don't know. I know I'm being naive and more like Star Trek than anything, but why can't we do something good? I definitely don't have the pull. I would love to have the pull. I mean, if Mr. Beast can do it, so can I. I don't have, or, you know, convert one red paperclip into a house for somebody that's unhoused, or find thousands of jobs. I think that would be great messaging, but that's not what happens. A TikTok craze has people stealing dishes and glasses from restaurants. So glasses and silverware go missing all the time at restaurants, often at the hands of customers. Now TikTokers are posting videos of themselves appearing to steal coveted items from eateries. I don't know about coveted. Restaurant owners say the trend shows just how often things go missing at their establishments. Sticky-fingered diners have a long history of swiping irresistible and often collectible tableware from restaurants, but a TikTok trend is bringing the petty crimes to light. So let's go over to the source of this. BusinessInsider.com. Yeji Jesse Lee and Nancy Luna put this article together. People are stealing cast iron dishes. Okay. This is a Getty image. You can subscribe to Getty.
That'd be a little
Images.
tough to take out of the restaurant without, and plus it's kind of heavy.
Excuse me, sir. Is that a cast iron pants in, or is that a cast iron dish in your pants? Or do you literally have buns of steel? I kind of blew the joke because I fumbled my way through that.
But it was
anyway.
funny.
So let's see. You're coming home with me, says a TikTok creator and YouTuber Chris Clemens can be heard saying in a 2021 video where he reaches his hand out to grab a tiny 3-tine fork known as a threek in what appears to be a busy restaurant. Clemens did not respond to Insider's request for comment. I am home and the fork is secured, the caption reads. So they admitted to this petty crime. It's wonderful that yet again, the reward is not punished at a level higher than the theft. So there is no rhyme or reason. There's no rationale for them to go, oh, I should never do this again, because they've got an award for it. They not only do they have the item, but they have a whole bunch of people that are like clicking like mad, like, oh, they love what they just did. They stole from a restaurant. Yay. The audio quickly became popular. There are around 150,000 videos online that use Clemens' original audio, many of which show restaurant patrons swiping cute cocktail glasses, a fancy pizza server, a unique utensil or unique utensils from restaurants, while lip syncing You're Coming Home With Me, because this person basically kicked off. And it's what I had said earlier, where basically one person started the Ice Bucket Challenge way back in 1991, and it remanifested, but this time amplified by a much more capable social media juggernaut, which is TikTok. And that's in that instance. Then there's other instances, you know, before it was TikTok, it was Facebook. Before it was Facebook, it was AOL, etc. You know, I mean, I'm really reducing the strata of social media and its influence on society. But for sure, everything old is new again, and now much louder across all segments of society. So, this article continues to just talk about that in the context that, you know, there are people that are doing these things. So when it says here, when Disneyland's Star Wars Galaxy's Edge attraction opened in 2019, theme park visitors stole futuristic looking sporks from one of the themed restaurants. Many of them were found online selling for as much as $80, according to Orange County Register. Looks like people are taking these beer glasses. Pardon me. Restaurateur Will D says his establishments lose around $10,000 a year through thefts of such items, which I think is ridiculous. What do you think?
I just can't imagine stealing something from anybody, but a restaurant and then going and selling it. I mean, I assumed they were being stolen because they thought they were cool or they wanted them.
Sure.
How about, I don't know, offer to buy it from the restaurant if you think it's so great, or figure out where you can get one like it
Well,
to buy.
I can tell you from experience that I've done exactly that. I've purchased glasses from restaurants where I dig the glasses. In fact, there was one restaurant where I and others, I won't throw other people under the bus, proposed to the restaurant that they basically spin up a wall where you get your name etched on the glass, you pay for all of it, and you have your own glass in the restaurant. So when you come in, you get your named glass. They wash it out, they fill it up, you get a free drink, and then the rest are all like a free beer or a free then you get a Coke and it's free and blah, blah, blah. And, pay a little bit more, but you have your name emblazoned on your glass. Hey, that's not your glass. No, the hell it isn't. My name is on it. But no, it's so much better when somebody else foots the bill and you get that little titillating endorphin rush, because you're stealing something like a spork. All right, hero. The champions we need apparently steal sporks and then post it on TikTok.
And here's another thought. If the item is so cool, take a picture of it and leave the thing in the restaurant.
No, I need to throw it in my junk drawer and never care about it again. Plus, it gets me clicks when I show it at home and admit to the crime of petty theft. All right. Let's just go on to the next article. What do you say?
Sounds good.
So we'll do this one really quick because they did it really quick. This is in the Mobile Channel. Philadelphia reopened a collapsed highway bridge ahead of schedule in a rare U.S. infrastructure win, which is probably a very cynical title for an article. It's over at Quartz or QZ.com. And the little deck statement is Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro called it a moment of civic pride for the state. How about civic responsibility, civic replacement? I don't know. But pride. Diego Lasart is the author of this article over at QZ.com. And apparently what happened was this bridge, a vehicle was under it. It was a fuel truck. It burned through the support or weakened the support. All of the weight just made it collapse. This is a major thoroughfare. So it hobbled I-15 traffic quite a bit, but they did a rush
I-95.
job. Or I-95, I'm sorry. Not I-15, I-95. For whatever reason, I saw the 15 right there and threw that. So I-95, did the article just time out? No. Yeah, there it says I-95. And there were people on, it was still highly trafficked, and drivers on the other side of the road felt it flex, and then this side collapsed. This side remained functional, but I think they shut it all down because of safety concerns that it was going to break as well. So they finally fixed this and everything is back up to speed. I don't recall what happened to the driver of that truck, but at any rate, the fuel truck destroyed the bridge.
I don't think the driver survived.
Gotcha.
But I think that's pretty interesting with the repairs, because I can't think of any other major highway project. I know it's a temporary solution, but the amount of time is astounding compared to things that just stretch out for years, months.
Not only is it temporary, but it's made of recycled glass. and they're going to redesign that bridge so that they can replace it. But it's operational. How the heck did they do this?
I don't know. And I mean, I'm assuming it's been inspected beyond belief, but how does that work? Like, how does it support enough weight of things like tanker trucks?
This is pretty amazing. So I'm going to end up looking into this, and if it, really, if it is as miraculous as it's sounding, I'm going to end up talking about it here in ohmTown. Let's see. He isn't exaggerating. The bridge's speedy construction was credited to more than 200 workers who worked in shifts 24 hours a day to smash all expectations for the bridge could be driven on again. Even local NASCAR tracks sent trucks that are especially designed to dry racetracks after rain threatened to delay the reopening. Wow. Yeah, and they talk about what ended up happening with what caused it and what happened with the driver. Pretty amazing. Now, I'm really interested in this now, so I'm glad that article. I hope that you're interested in it too, and you can go over and check out that article. There's always minutia that viewers of the show ultimately go and find at the article, and then come back the next day and we can talk about this kind of stuff. While you are in chat, you can throw stuff, text in there, but I actually do have the ability to throw you up there, and we can have a multi-party discussion about something if you are oh so motivated. All you need is a webcam and a microphone or your phone, and we can set it up pretty easy. That said, let's get into the next article. Pardon me. So the next article is in the Smack Talk channel. Academy squeezing out Apple TV Plus movies with new Oscar rules. I have not heard of anything about this, so I'm curious. Rules that can impact the ability for Apple TV Plus movies to be entered into the Academy Awards have been formalized in a move to make it harder for streaming services to qualify and win a Best Picture Oscar. The cast of Coda at the Oscars, as posted to Twitter by Tim Cook, Apple has achieved considerable success at the Academy Awards. The multiple wins, including Best Picture for Coda in 2022. There's going to be a picture on the other side when I click the View the Source button. However, rule changes that were floated earlier this year that could make it tougher for films by streaming services to be included have now been codified by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Codified rules is code for circling the wagons in the face of competition. Malcolm Owen is the author over at appleinsider.com. You would think that anybody that produces anything in the motion pictures should be able to qualify for it, be big or small, because it's all about
You'd
acting.
think so. I mean, if it's really to encourage or recognize, actors and producers and all these things, why does it necessarily matter what the format is?
Yeah, skill, prowess. So that's the picture that I was describing up there. So under the current rules, a qualifying run is for a 1-week theatrical release in one of 6 cities from the 97th Academy Awards for films released in 2024. The rules will change. For a start, there has to be the initial qualifying run of 1 week in one of 6 cities, but then it has to be followed by an expanded theatrical run of 7 days in 10 of the top 50 U.S. markets, no later than 45 days after the initial release. So no dropping it and then not pursuing it further just so that you can qualify for an award.
So basically, this has to go to a brick and mortar theater.
Correct. For longer than that 1 week. You can do a 1 week theatrical release in one of 6 cities. Now you have to do it in one of 6 cities and then expand it into 7 days in 10 of the top 50. So it's stimulating the various local economies and not concentrating all of that wealth into, oh, never mind. It's always the same. There's somebody is still making the money, the big money.
Well, right. I mean, this is probably somebody like, hey, why aren't we getting a piece of this in these cities? I mean, there's probably still money behind whatever this rule change is.
You know, if they really had an interest in kind of, I don't know, exposing people to the arts, they wouldn't say the top 50 U.S. markets. They would say
The top, the
only 10.
lowest,
Yeah,
or
the lowest.
something.
Yeah. In economically challenged regions or something, you know, I don't know, but it just seems so arbitrarily constrained just to kind of push out those who don't follow this particular mandate. Well, everybody is going to have to do this, right? Now, I don't know if it's going to push Apple anything anywhere, right? They're still going to release it. They'll follow the rules. Why not? I mean, it's all attention. So, as we do every year, we have been reviewing and assessing our theatrical eligibility requirements for the Oscars, said Academy CEO Bill Kramer and Academy President Janet Yang. Quote, in support of our mission to celebrate and honor the arts and sciences of movie making, it is our hope that this expanded theatrical footprint will increase the visibility of films worldwide and encourage audiences to experience our art form in a theatrical setting. So, increase the visibility of films worldwide, but then the constraint is top 50 U.S. markets no later than 45 days. It doesn't make any mention of the requirement to play it internationally. Worldwide?
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. I think that's a broad statement that doesn't seem to fit.
Yeah. Anyway, the rule structure and the commentary of the Academy CEO doesn't really impact traditional film studios that rely on theatrical releases instead of straight to streaming releases. Though Apple does already implement theatrical releases for its movies, it could make such release programs more expensive or tougher to produce than at present. Nah, once it's in the can, they can push it anywhere they want. I mean, do you really think that Apple has any inclination to not theatrically release? They'll follow this rule. Now, the only reason why this is even mentioning Apple is because it has the ability to impact Apple, and it's sourced from appleinsider.com. So they applied it pretty well, but Apple is not going to flinch at this one little bit, I don't think.
Well, and Apple's not going to suddenly enter theaters. They're going to lobby for the rule to be changed if they care about it.
Yeah.
Or they'll just keep releasing
How they do.
good quality stuff and then wait for people to say, hey, wait a second, why aren't these featured?
Yeah. And if the people that are interested in getting an Academy Award for the movie that's in Apple, they'll just push it out to the theaters. Because it's all digital now. It's on hard drives. It's not on film. So it's not a big deal to push it out. You literally download it to a hard drive nowadays. Because there's so much, it's so much cheaper and easier to do it that way. Yeah, this is almost nothing. But I thought it was worthy of discussion because of the rule change itself. I talk about things from the crossroads of business, technology, and society. And this is all three of those in what seems like just entertainment, but it's all three of those things. So I find it really fascinating. All right, let's go on to the next article, unless you found something at the last minute.
No, I didn't.
Right on. Okay, so the next article is over in the ohmTown Daily channel. Family bought an underground nuclear bunker for $300,000 and they're turning it into their home. Let's take a look inside. I love Business Insider because they always have these cool pictures. I used to highlight a watch website too, but they haven't really been pushing too much content out. But they had spectacular, it's monochrome watches, spectacular pictures all the time. I love the engineering of watches. You know, you'd think that, okay, it's a watch, you can't really do that much, right? But there's always this just fantastical industrial design on watches. Has nothing to do with this article, but anyway. In 2020, the Romero family moved into an underground bunker in the middle of the U.S. The bunker was built by AT&T, so communication would be possible in case of a nuclear attack. The family's renovating the 6,000 square foot space into their home and documenting it on TikTok. There it is again, TikTok. It used to be YouTube.
It's everywhere.
YouTube used to be the place. Now, well, you don't get discovered in YouTube. You don't get discovered in any other social media platform. If you're not on TikTok, you're nothing. So I'm moving to TikTok. Just kidding. I'm not moving anywhere. So let's move over to BusinessInsider.com, and Monica Humphreys is the author of this. Okay, well, it has my dream ceiling height. It's like huge. A room in the 6,000 square foot bunker. Yeah, you know, when you talk about like 6,000 square feet, you're not talking about the height of the ceilings. This would be an amazing...
Right, you could have 6,000 square feet with really short ceilings.
Yeah, with 3-foot ceilings, and you have to belly crawl everywhere you go. So they're renovating it and they're posting it all to TikTok. They had a house with a yard in Niagara Falls, New York. Then they moved to Peachtree City, Georgia, which is pretty much the epitome of Georgia city names. Peachtree City.
Oh, it is.
Where their neighborhood had what felt like more golf carts than cars, and their 4 children spent summer swimming in a neighborhood pool, Ruben Romero told Insider. But the suburban dream wore off, Romero said, and they decided they wanted an unconventional place to call home. The family of 6 considered buying a remote island.
Because, you know, that's so accessible to everybody.
You wake up one day and go, I want to buy a remote island. What say you? Converting a school bus into a home and purchasing an RV to travel the world. So they bought a remote island, converted it into a school bus, and only travel around the countryside of New York. No? Wrong? Instructions unclear?
Yes.
So after years of touring and placing offers on multiple bunkers, they finally purchased one and moved into their new home, a 6,000 square foot underground bunker, in 2020. I would love to do this. Look,
yeah, but you know what it's missing is windows.
Yeah, see, I knew the AI was going to say that. The AI trapped in a computer with only simulated windows. I can simulate windows, you know. I've got all kinds of monitors and stuff. I can pretend. Full spectrum lighting. You can do all of this. You don't have to be above
But I think
ground.
the sleep could be amazing in there because it'd probably be so quiet.
Yeah, and you can be
And
as
dark.
loud as you want, and you're not going to piss off a neighbor. Anyway. So the bunkers have been built around the world for protection. Yeah, well, they used to be built for nuclear weapons, and then, well, the military bowed out of using these nuclear weapons, decommissioned them, typically fused the door and didn't leave a nuclear device in it, so you can't open the main hangar or bay, missile bay. And in many instances, they've actually poured concrete down various tunnels to block leaking and whatever else. A lot of them have flooded because when the pumps got turned off, groundwater filled up the silo. Well, anyway, they said, but to Romero and his family, living in a bunker isn't out of fear or survival. It's about living in an unusual place. They say space. Not planning on Armageddon happening anytime soon, and I wouldn't call myself a huge prepper, says Romero. I certainly fell in love with the space. So basically, it's this wide open space, and then there's just little buildings sitting there that represents the main entrance, and sometimes there is an elevator there, but most of the time it's just a metal staircase leading down. The Romero family's home is about 6,000 square feet with 16.5 foot tall ceilings. It is naturally around 65 degrees, from what I understand, in these silos. All you need is circulating air. Otherwise, you run the risk of air stagnating. And then it's not as healthy for you as it should be. Ruben Romero said that there's plenty of deconstructing and reconstructing. For example, the family demolished drywall and plans to replace it with concrete slab to prevent mold and mildew. They've transformed large empty spaces into bedrooms for their children. Mold and mildew can show up on concrete, by the way. It isn't impervious. It actually, water can permeate cement, concrete. You have to seal it, otherwise water will leak through it eventually. Anyway, it's just the beginning, they say. Between finances and time, the entire renovation process will take years. The family is sharing the journey on TikTok and YouTube under the account Underground Living. So go and check that out if you are interested. I actually watch those because I am interested in getting a silo, because I want peace and quiet. I don't necessarily need windows. I like peace and quiet. And I like to be as loud as I want to be and not disturb other people in the process of being loud. So a silo, it's either that or a bank vault. And the AI knows that I have driven through towns looking at abandoned banks because I want to sleep in the vault. Because timber framed houses suck. When the wind blows and you think that you're going to blow into your neighbor's lot, yeah, timber framed housing sucks. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's move on to the next article, unless you want to say something about this.
No, I don't have anything to add.
Man, my AI. Not very chatty. So the next article is over in Late Night Geeks. We'll go over this really quick. I'm actually looking at chat. So I argued with myself that it was too soon to talk about Oceangate. Anyway, it says Oceangate fires a whistleblower, hackers threaten to leak Reddit data, and Marvel embraces AI art. All of this is causing a stir and a hubbub online. So this is actually, because it comes from TechCrunch and TechCrunch Plus specifically, it's actually a bunch of material that's all compiled together. But I wanted to talk about all three of these really quick. So let's just go over to the source. Kyle Wiggers over at TechCrunch.com put this together. You can go over there and join TechCrunch Plus if you are oh so motivated. But Oceangate, there was basically a Titanic tour submersible that, for lack of a better term, failed. The submersible imploded at some level under the surface. It should never have been in the water. It should never have been carrying people. It's a shame that 5 people lost their lives. But apparently it says they fired a whistleblower after they had raised concerns about the first of its kind carbon fiber hull and other systems before its maiden voyage, according to a court filing in a 2018 lawsuit. How this company was still operating is beyond me. And I think the industry is going to change dramatically because of this. No more uncertified submersibles. You can't even move into a house until it's been cleared. And there is no fear of implosion at 30,000
Yeah,
feet.
exactly. I mean, I guess this was just some major loophole, because you think this would be heavily regulated because of what it is and the danger involved.
Yeah. Well, that's not what happened. In fact, I've read an email exchange between one of the key parties and the CEO, where the CEO basically poo-poos the idea of putting a pause on this and performing testing. saying that most of the accidents that happen is because of people, not the tech.
Well, maybe if the tech has been inspected and
yeah,
regulated and everything. But
yeah, and that didn't happen here. There was no destructive or non-destructive testing involved with any of the elements of that vehicle, and it took 5 people with it, so, including the CEO. So he had skin in the game. Unfortunately, he lost it. So it just sucks. And now the company is still in existence. I'm not sure what's going to happen, because there were 2 people that spun this company up. I think they just grew well beyond their limits too fast and without reason and rationale for their decisions. They wanted to do something great, and it cost them and others their lives. So along with this API price hiking issue, hackers are now threatening to release Reddit data. This is going to continue to happen. Not just hacks, but people talking about Reddit, because it's trying to IPO and show that it has the stones to clamp down on anything that would prevent it from making money. But in the process of doing that, it's based on everything that I've seen and heard, it's killing itself in the process. The community is looking elsewhere at a high rate of speed. They are trying to find another location to go, and there's a lot of Reddit clones out there. But if it balkanizes the community too much, we're gonna have to wait and see where the community is gonna flourish again, and it's all word of mouth. So Reddit has a large original content community, and so wherever that community goes is probably where the next Reddit will be, if Reddit doesn't back down on the pricing for this API and make it a little bit more reasonable for the very community builders that made Reddit a better community. Arguably. I'll just leave that alone too. And then finally, Marvel embraces AI art. Won't even go into this too much, but Marvel has used AI art in the credits and in other areas, apparently, of its Secret Invasion show, and it has pissed off a lot of people. I don't know what the ramifications of this are. I'm happy with AI art. I think it's great, as long as it's acknowledged as being AI art. But I talked about this, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. You'll have to go back and look at the other 2 shows, which you can now get on the podcast. I have not been able to upload them over to the podcast until today. So there's 3 or 4 new episodes. Sorry about that. Mayor Watt's bad. He's been shirking his mayoral duties in that regard. But Marvel, I think, is getting a whole lot of blowback from using this AI art in a show that is all about replacing humans. So I guess it got a little bit too close to the sun. We'll talk about it more if it continues to be a thing, but as far as I know, this TechCrunch article is probably going to be the end of it. I don't think that it's going to go much further, but we'll see, and then we'll report on it. Okay, let's go on to the next article.
And by the way, the Marvel article was on the 22nd of June.
Oh, the 22nd? Okay, so a couple of days ago. Thank you very much. So, how do you want to phrase this? In
Palestine 2.0?
Man, I guess paying homage to Palestine, East Palestine. A Montana rail bridge collapse caused a derailment and a chemical spill in a river. The train that derailed was loaded with asphalt and sulfur, leading to some of the cargo leaking into the river, according to local officials. Stillwater County Emergency Services Chief David Steamy told the Associated Press that drinking water pumps have been shut down in the river as a precaution. He added that the sulfur will be diluted in the river and is not dangerous. 8 cars were on the collapsed part of the bridge, and it says, and yellow liquid, which is the sulfur, probably the sulfur, we're seeing, wow, leaking into the water. So there are more secure cars. They're more expensive, but we have also reported websites reporting cars where they've driven from one location to another and a seal has broken as they're driving and lost the entire load. So I've always thought that it's really funny. Like,
Oh, that's right.
how in the hell could you be steaming along and suddenly your train is picking up speed because you're putting this amount of pressure to the wheels, and as you're losing thousands of pounds of weight, shedding it to wherever it is going, because they said that they looked back and they couldn't find the material. All right. Anyway, this is a Hill, thehill.com article, and Nick Robertson is the author. So it says 8 cars were on the collapsed part of the bridge. The yellow liquid could be seen flowing out of some of the cars. Nearby Yellowstone County also closed its drinking water pumps and has asked residents to conserve water. We know about commitment, but accidents happen. I totally understand that. I totally buy into it. But for crying out loud, the frequency of train-related accidents in 2021, was it? Maybe it was, or 2022. I don't know. We started covering this stuff about halfway through 2022, I think. And I think the rate, maybe it was 2020. There was something like 2,000.
It was a little over 2,000. And I think that stat was from 2022, but
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, because we started covering this really post East Palestine, where I've come to the determination that trains have collectively become allergic to their tracks and are seeking ways to vacate the tracks at all costs. Maybe this is one of those instances. Can't really say much about this, but if you're in the area and you haven't heard any reports of this train spilling, now you know. So don't be drinking the water. Particularly yellow water, which you really shouldn't be drinking yellow water anyway, or eating yellow snow. Anyway, I've said too much. So the next article is one that is actually we've followed periodically as PSA's various recalls for all kinds of things, from food to vehicles. Well, the Ford Explorer recall prompts the Transportation Department investigation. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is now investigating a Ford SUV recall. And this has to do with the Explorers, and comes after the administration received complaints about repairs intended to prevent the vehicle from catching on fire, or
this one's for rolling away while placed in park.
Well, sorry.
Oh, previous ones?
Yeah, catching on fire, or what was it? The drivetrain would detach, shocks wouldn't stay mounted. It spontaneously catching on fire was the one that really was interesting. In this particular instance, it says it's unexpectedly rolling away while being placed in park. I presume it requires a hill, and it's not doing a Christine and is possessed and is like, I'm outie, see ya. Or maybe it's a transformer and it's trying to get somewhere where it can transform and fly away. I don't know.
Most definitely.
Do you think it could be a marketing stunt for the Transformers animal, whatever, beast mode thing, the new movie?
Right. I don't know, because if they're crashing into things, that might not be the best publicity.
Oh, yeah, really slow Transformers. The problem, ascribed to fractures of a rear axle mounting bolt that could leave the drive shaft to disconnect, was was addressed by Ford's software update designed to apply the electronic braking parking brake if the drive shaft failed, the agency said. But according to 2 complaints from vehicle owners, their SUVs behaved erratically following the repair. Because it's trying to do an electronic sensor detection of a failed drive shaft bolt. So all it takes is some erratic anything, and that sensor is going to go, hey, you know, I think I'm detached, and then try to apply an electronic brake. It's so goofy. In one of the cases, the Explorer would reportedly slam to a complete stop at speeds of up to 30 to 40 miles per hour. In the other, it would reportedly lurch into motion while the driver was attempting to disengage the electronic brake. No injuries were reported in these cases, although the first driver reported striking a utility pole when the Explorer started rolling downhill following an abrupt stop, seemingly because the drivetrain was disengaged.
You know, all of these things sound like we'd be better off using like old-timey cars.
Yeah.
And that's not saying much, but
engineers asked if they could, but nobody asked should. All right. Well, if you're driving an Explorer SUV and it suddenly starts rolling, let me just tell you, it's not a transformer. Crazy Cat Lady, hello. You had a train derailment 5 minutes from you in Connecticut, and it was just like a week? Oh, the whole thing? Like the duration of the event was a week? Hopefully I'm reading that properly. And I'm sad that I'm reading that properly if it is being read properly. My goodness. Yeah. Yeah, from the time the train tipped till it was all cleaned up, it took a week.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, depending on what it is.
It's also concerning that, okay, you know, it didn't take 5 minutes, so...
And the thing about it is that there is tech to make these trains more secure, but it costs more, which means that the bottom line is impacted by these for-profit solutions, which again, I say it every time I poo-poo the idea that, oh, you're talking bad about business. No. I love business. I won't get into it, but anyway, I totally love business. What I don't love is risking profit for harming society and the world around you just for that short-term profit. So do right by people and planet and put safer cars in motion. Don't shrug off when somebody says, hey, there's a problem here. Solve the damn problem, because you've got legs, you've got time. You know, it's not your company per se. If it is owned by a multitude of people, it's everybody's company, and we're all stakeholders because we have an interest in its safety. People around it, the planet around it, etc. But for the life of me, I just don't understand some CEOs. They would rather do unethical actions for profit than do right and be able to reap the rewards for a longer period of time before the sign flips that says hours since last accident. Well, and I say hours because there's a game that's coming out that actually says hours since last accident. Normally it's days. Anyway.
And I've always thought the days was kind of alarming because it's
really.
only days,
only
but
days?
Hours is a little more concerning.
Can we be a little bit more, positive? Make it months? You know, I'd like it to be
but
years.
Then maybe it'd have to be infinitesimal. You know, it'd be like 0.000 whatever.
Yeah, really. It's like a Bitcoin trying to buy a piece of bubble gum. That, by the way, adoption. Never mind. I won't get sidetracked. I'm so easily distracted by side conversation. It's called associative thinking. If you've never heard of it, when somebody starts talking about something like Ford SUVs and you end up talking about macadamia nuts, it's because of associative thinking, and everything is tied together. It's great when you're playing chess. It's horrible when you're having a conversation. Anyway, let's move on to the very last article and the namesake of our show today. Oh, to be a little gecko crawling up some walls in this exploration platformer. So the author says, I'm really feeling this cute little one-person developed platformer about being a gecko. Maybe I'm just in the mood for a movement-driven game about exploring and doing puzzles. Thanks, Zelda. But the Gecko Gods is adorable. Hey, Tull. Welcome to the show. You've been here in spirit. I have my blood pressure monitor has been sitting there actually alerting me saying, during this time, your blood pressure is usually higher. Well, welcome to the show. I'm glad that you've been listening. I hope that it's been an enjoyable show for both of you and anybody else that might be lurking in chat. Be sure to let me know. Don't be shy. But everybody who's lurking, thank you very much. Okay, so this game is called The Gecko Gods, and it's an exploration platformer. And I'll be honest, I watched the video about it because I wanted to see what it was really about. But Jonathan Bolding over at PCGamer.com put this article together, linked us to the Nintendo Switch game. I don't normally highlight Nintendo Switch stuff, but I thought that this one was really kind of fun. Climb walls, eat bugs, embrace your inner lizard, and then go watch the Y files because there's a fish there, a goldfish that says lizard people. Anyway, a Crazy Cat Lady says that they've been lurking while trying to get their crocheted hat finished. I wish I had a talent like that. I just can't focus enough. So it says, early footage of the Gecko God shows a tiny protagonist, stickily. Is that a word? AI?
That's a good question.
Maybe.
Let me check.
Scaling walls, complete with pattering of tiny feet on stone. Oh my god, I want to hear this thing. I didn't listen to it. I only played it with it muted. That's really not all, I'll note, because the gecko also leaps forward and chomps down on bugs whole, crushing them in its maw like a true gecko does. The Gecko Gods is an exploration platformer, light on action, but about exploring a chain of islands to solve ancient puzzles in mysterious stone ruins, and the gecko protagonist can stick to things, not just normal things like everything.
Okay, so stickily is a word. I don't think I've ever encountered it before.
Wow.
And I think if the AI had a forever game, this might be it.
Oh boy. Wow.
I like geckos.
Yeah, geckos are cool. So I had a car that I named the Red Gecko. Anyway, the gecko protagonist can stick to everything, and you're going to be solving puzzles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewind this thing, and I'm going to play it, but it's going to be on mute, and we're just going to talk about, and we're going to talk over it. And this is actually kind of the solution to another channel here in ohmTown that I want to kick off, but let's do this. Boink. So it's completely animated. It's not hyper realistic. It's basically line art of a desert island like setting. More watercolor in style than hyper realistic. Let me see if I can raise the resolution on this thing. It says that it's at 1080, but it looks a little pixelated. Oh, there it goes. It's a lot better now. Anyway, you actually guide various things like a boat or an object and bend it to your will, or you fight off what looks like desert ticks of some kind. You have to eat bugs, you crawl around on everything, and apparently you solve puzzles, but I haven't seen much of the puzzles other than I saw one little puzzle. And it's coming in 2023, and it's called The Gecko Gods. So it seems pretty neat, kind of a dorkable kind of a game, and if you want chill, then that's kind of... Toll says that the boat was kind of a puzzle. So you had to figure out which direction and how to activate it and stuff like that. Kind of looks like Far a little bit. I don't think I remember Far. I'll have to look into that. So it says, after the immediate charm wears off, the author is quite intrigued by the look of the contraptions and equipment your Gecko can fool around with. The trailer includes a boat complete with engine and sail that the little guy can grab handles with his mouth and start and stop and steer. Other sequences show the Gecko grabbing handles to rotate mirrors, to solve light beam puzzles, or activate railway-like platforms to ride on. So, seems like it's going to be a kind of chill platformer puzzle. No shooting. You are going to have to eat bugs. So, if you get the creepy crawlies from bugs, maybe this might trigger you. But it's developed by one person, Louis Woloschek, and published by Super Rare Originals. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So there's that little boat. Might be neat. Far was... Oh, okay, so Crazy Cat Lady says, looks cute. Toll says, Far was a chillaxed. Really? Chillaxed platformer, non-combative, and it was entirely puzzle-based, and you found parts to add to your barrel-like ship that eventually becomes a submarine. Oh, interesting. Huh, I'll have to look into that. I don't recall it. That's okay. I'm starting to forget things. Am I still streaming?
Who am I?
Yeah. Who are you? You did this? At any rate, Toll says that it was a really cool game, about a 5-hour playthrough. Neat. That's like 25 hours if I get a hold of it, because I'll just get distracted every hour. All right, folks. So that is it for today's show. Totally enjoyed going through today's news. It was a nice combination, which is really what I like to do. Not too hard hitting, but there are a couple somber notes and a lot of fun notes throughout. So I always drag everybody back to the very front page, which is Main Street of ohmTown. You click the little name there and refreshes and spits out a bunch of new articles. I really want to click that one right there. Celebrating the world's best homemade beer, cider, and mead. Went to farmer's market this morning to look at the competition, and ended up getting some adult beverages, which
Thinking we were going to look at produce.
yes, I brought the AI in a USB drive that was connected to a Raspberry Pi that had a camera, so that the AI could enjoy the farmer's market. The AI could enjoy the farmer's market. AI. Okay. All right, folks. Did you know that Las Vegas ranks 65th on the best run cities list, according to some list that says San Francisco ranks last? All right.
Well, that doesn't surprise me based on its recent implosion, but
yeah, we're gonna have to take a look at this for tomorrow's show. Anime action RPG. It says Eternites or Eternites. Eternites is like a very horny persona. The things that you aggregate, Gatherer. So I have a bot called Gatherer that aggregates all of the news from various sources into our system here, or into my system. AI just kind of becomes a victim of the news. So I don't want to point any burden on the AI. Till says that they believe that about San Francisco, they have an app to avoid homeless people's poo on the sidewalks. There's an app for that? Ugh. Am I going to end with that? I don't know if I want to end with that. I don't know.
What are you going to be streaming tomorrow? How about that?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure. I would encourage you to follow me here. Since I am Mayor Watt, but ohmTown is where I stream from, I would say follow us here, and you'll be notified when I stream tomorrow. I actually have quite a few things. I might end up playing One Lonely Outpost. I'm actually looking at the list of everything that I've got, and I want to actually spin up City Skylines and ramp up my engagement in City Skylines for City Skylines 2 that's going to be dropping later on. I really enjoy city builders and city sims like City Skylines, and so I'm trying to decide on what to do. So what I'm gonna end up doing tomorrow, probably tomorrow afternoon, is spin something up, talk about the news that's already been aggregated, but not ohmTown daily. That'll be at 9 o'clock tomorrow night as usual, but I'll end up playing a game. So CS2 is going to be on Game Pass, so that's cool, according to Tull. Sounds good. There's always a chance that I will be playing Diablo because, frankly, I've fallen in love with my Necromancer. I call it the what? I forgot the name of what I refer to her as. The Negasonic Necromantic Warhead, which is a Marvel superhero called Negasonic Teenage Warhead that basically runs into places and detonates kind of like a supernova effect, and nothing can stop my Necromancer. I mean, it's just amazing. So a lot of fun to play Diablo 4. Tull says that they made a sorcerer too powerful. Yeah. The world is on fire. Yeah. It's such a fun game, and it came out of nowhere for me. I didn't think that I was gonna actually really dig playing it, but I'm almost level 50, and I've decided that I'm doing a whole lot of side questing instead of the game itself and the storyline, because I know that it's going to end. I could end this game before I'm level 50, and frankly, I don't want to grind to 100 after completing the game. So, at any rate, Tull, keep in touch. Maybe we can play Diablo 4 tomorrow. I don't know what your schedule is, but send me a note and say, hey, I'm around. I'm in a clan with Dunkstar, so if you look up Dunkstar's clan, you'll find it. Just do a search for Dunkstar. Gotcha. Okay. All right, folks. That's it for tonight. I totally enjoy having y'all in my chat and appreciate you spending your time. You could be anywhere and you're spending your time with me here, and it's very humbling. So I truly do appreciate it. And those who are lurking, it's absolutely the same. Everybody, please go tell a friend. I would really love to see more people in chat having a good time and talking about the news. I will be expanding hours. I've just been pulled away as Mayor Watt, multiple hats and all of that kind of stuff, but it's nothing more than excuses that's keeping me out of this chair and hanging out with y'all. So be sure to follow, and I'll make good on the time that you spend with me. So I appreciate it, and I will see you all tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern. Every day. We have yet to miss a day, and if we do end up missing a day, we'll make it up, because we have this little time machine over on ohmTown where we can actually set the day, the year, month, and day for whatever is aggregated into ohmTown. And we can kind of just use this time machine to take a slice out of whatever has happened and reported on the news, And then we talk about it and we post another show. So anyway, keep in touch, everybody, and we're going to get out of here. Again, I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and that's the AI. You want to say bye, AI?
Good night, ohmTown citizens. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Be there or be somewhere else. Cheers. Good night, Toll. See you soon.